At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our August action meeting. At this time, I would like to call for an approval of the minutes. On tonight's agenda, we are approving the regular action meeting dated July 26, 2016, the board work session special action meeting dated July 12, 2016, and the executive sessions dated July 12th and 26, 2016. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes? Mr. Goodwin. Do I have a second? Mr. Roth. Are there any questions or changes to the minutes? Seeing none, Mrs. Sugars.
Mr. Goodwin?
Yes.
Mrs. Judge?
Yes to all.
Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
Mr. Roth?
Yes to all.
Mrs. Seidel?
Yes.
Mrs. Scarpellino?
Yes.
Mr. Tomlinson?
Yes to all.
Mrs. Matlack?
Yes. Any correspondence this evening? Mrs. Judge.
Well, I have a report on my meeting with Senator Beach earlier this month. So we met on Wednesday, August 3rd at about 10:30 in the Senator's office on Route 70. They included Senator Beach briefly, his aide Ivy Rovner, two Senator Beach interns. One is a rising senior at East, Jonathan Pushman from New Jersey School Boards, who organized the meeting, and Joyce Miller, who is board president of Gibbsboro, and myself. And within the first 5 minutes, Senator Beach had to excuse himself for another matter. So, not unexpected on my part. But anyway, so Jonathan started the meeting by talking about state, for Senator President Sweeney's school funding plan, and that school boards is in support of the Sweeney plan versus the Christie plan. We discussed this for a few minutes, such as what do Board of Ed members in our district think about the two plans, et cetera, and we shared what our boards think. And at this time, I was able to ask Ivy to please encourage Senator Beach to recommend to Senate President Sweeney that a South Jersey representative would be nice on the four-person panel if his moves forward in both the Senate and the Assembly. And there was a joke regarding that I was referring to a Cherry Hill for one being on the four, and I said, no, not Cherry Hill specific, but a struggling public school district would be nice. To be represented on the four-person panel, I mean. So Jonathan also brought up the subject of pensions, and that school board's stance on this is that local school districts cannot bear the financial burden of pensions, which had been rumored in the past. And from what I understand, this was discussed at the May Delegates Assembly at school boards. The two hot topics that we were able to bring up were, Jonathan brought up, were Chapter 78 and the Cadillac tax. And some districts, including ourselves, have been able to negotiate into their contracts the share of health care benefit costs to the members, but some guidance from the state would be greatly appreciated, because we're all kind of winging it out there with our negotiated contracts. And the Cadillac tax, although well-intended, is a real threat to school districts, and we are all grateful for the January 1st, 2020 deadline extension, but we are all very concerned about this, in that the state health care benefit plan already exceeds the Cadillac tax threshold. So I was able to bring up the two issues from Cherry Hill to Senator Beach's aide Ivy from Cherry Hill and Dr. Malash. And the two issues were the skyrocketing costs of private school tuitions. And I was able to ask further about this with Mrs. Sugars prior to my Beach meeting, mentioning that school districts are receiving late year bills in addition to the tuition, and the late year bills include OT, PT, and speech, and these were unexpected. And when we place kids in these out-of-district placement schools, we are under the impression, or had been under the impression, that OT, PT, speech were included in the tuition bills already received and budgeted because it was in the IEP, and that these bills received were unexpected and not budgeted. They seemed very surprised at that, and I have had a couple of clarifying questions in the last couple of weeks, and I do recommend that you meet with Senator Beach and Ivy also, both of you. And the other issue was regarding McKinney-Vento, the homeless transportation. And I was also able to ask Mrs. Sugars about this prior to my meeting. And as we were starting to discuss this, Jonathan from school boards reminded that this is a federal law, and that I mentioned that what I had learned is that the clock starts over with the responsibility falling on the school district for 1 year every time the child moves. So if a child moves, for example, so if a child moves from family member to family member, such as living in Delran, but they would be a Cherry Hill student, and then moving to another family member in Maple Shade, the 365-day responsibility starts every time they move. Ivy was quite surprised at this, and she asked some great questions regarding both these issues. And before we left at about 11:30, she was able to talk to Senator Beach privately very quickly, and he seemed very receptive to the suggestion of a South Jersey representative on Sweeney's 4-person panel. And he stated and made eye contact and said that he would contact Senator President Sweeney regarding this. And as we were wrapping up the meeting and getting ready to leave, conversation flowed to cameras on the outside of school buses to capture drivers not following the law regarding no passing of school buses when they have their red blinkers on and the stop sign pulled to allow kids to get in and out of the bus. And Jonathan mentioned that school boards is definitely behind this recommendation. And we were able to get a photo op before we all had to hurry up and leave. But I did walk away feeling that Cherry Hill had been heard. Although, it didn't go exactly as we had hoped, but I did feel that our concerns were heard. And I hope you guys do follow up. Any questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Matlack.
Thanks so much. Any other items of correspondence? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our board representative reports. And this evening, we're going to start with East, and Caitlin is here tonight.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. So many of you may recognize me from past Board of Education appearances as I was sitting in the audience. But there's still some other parts about me besides the science portion that I would like to share with you before I start. So as for the science, I am Vice President of Science Olympiad, which is our incredible science competition team at East. And I'm also co-president and co-founder of our new Science National Honor Society. I'm also editor-in-chief of Eastside, our school paper. And I play the clarinet in a lot of ensembles at East. I play in the orchestra, in the wind ensemble, in some chamber groups. And I used to play in the marching band. Now I lead the marching band as assistant drum major. We've been preparing a lot. I'll talk about that a little later. Since the marching band season coincides with soccer season, I can't play soccer at East. But I do play outside of school, and I'm a coach for special education children at a program run in Marlton called Sports Unity. And I also have a younger sister who's going to be attending Beck Middle School as a 6th grader. So something that I wanted to address was kind of a thank you to our district for the amazing summer programs that have been made possible for all of the students at East through our guidance department. One of the most common programs is Boys and Girls State. We were fortunate enough to send 5 or 6 boys and girls to each of these groups, and the students that went really enjoyed themselves. Boys and Girls State, for those who don't know, is run like a model New Jersey government where they pretend to be in a party and they have elections and voting. And it's really an incredible experience for those people that went, especially those who want to do that with their future. Another leadership program that I was fortunate enough to attend was called RYLA, Rotary Youth Leadership Awards Conference, which was mainly to teach the students leadership skills to bring back to their high schools. There's also 2 governor schools, Governor School in the Sciences and Governor School in Engineering and Technology. East sent 2 students to Governor School of Engineering and Technology, and I was able to attend Governor School in the Sciences, which was incredible. We were able to do research, work with professors at Drew University. It was amazing. And then finally, East also sent 1 student to New Jersey Scholars, which is another program that rather than focusing on science, it focuses on all of the subjects, and the students would write a paper at the end. all of their own work. So I know the student that went there from East had a wonderful time. So I just wanted to thank our guidance department and everyone here for allowing us to go to those things. All of those things are complimentary. So I know a lot of summer programs can cost thousands of dollars, but these were incredible things that were completely free. I'd also like to invite everyone to the first ever Cherry Lee's Science National Honor Society induction ceremony. It will be held Thursday, September 15th at 7 p.m. This is going to be one of 2 induction ceremonies held this year. Unfortunately, since we started the society late last school year, we were not able to hold a May induction ceremony like we were hoping to. So we're going to move that to September, and then we're going to have another one held in May or June. That every year from then on, it will be held in the spring as well. Also, thank you to Dr. Perry for some amazing opportunities for the Cherry Lee East Marching Band. We now have a truck for away games, which doesn't sound that big, but for us, it means we can have a pit orchestra now, or not an orchestra, a pit for our marching band, with all of our xylophones, our mallets, our timpanis, which makes us even more competitive this year. We're also going to 3 festivals rather than our regular 2, which is also a huge deal for us. This year, the show is based on the Russian Palatvian dances, and it's very exciting. You guys should come out to the East football games to watch us perform. It's a lot of fun this year. We also had some really good feedback from the freshman events that have been going on at East. We've been trying something new this year. We're giving freshman tours before orientation. So every Wednesday night, the school SGA and I have been giving students about half-hour tours around East, and a lot of the freshmen really like it. A half hour is not enough to get to know East, but it's something to calm their nerves a little bit before orientation. Also, at our orientation, we're giving out free t-shirts, and we're having a barbecue for all of the students, which is something that people are looking forward to. Our SGA, we have a new SGA advisor, Miss Kelly Radbill, and she's been doing a great job with all of this as well. In regards to the turf fields, the students are anxious but very excited for the turf fields to be completed at East. And then just a note about some course scheduling things. So we've all got our course schedules out recently in the high schools, but some students were a little disappointed in their schedules because psychology students had been told that there would be a research in humanities class. We have a research in science class where students conduct independent research for a science fair, and psychology is one of our most popular electives at East, and so the students were told that there would be a research in humanities course that was going to be a further study in psychology. So a lot of students requested this, and then they were told in June later on, after the courses had, or after our schedules had been put into the system, that this course was not going to exist. So there was a little bit of confusion with that. But overall, everyone is really excited for the school year. There's a lot of exciting things going on in September. And all the sports teams, the marching band, SGA has been hard at work already, getting ready for the school year.
Thank you, Caitlin. And Molly from West.
Good evening, board members. I would just like to take this opportunity to say thank you. I am honored to be able to attend these meetings, and I have enjoyed my time here so far. As for updates at West, peer leaders will be kicking off the year with a camping retreat to Camp Akanikin this Sunday. I am happy to be a part of the club and excited to begin this new school year with some fun. Next Wednesday, the day following the retreat, we will all meet again at the school for the freshman orientation. This will be our first time meeting the students. We will be guiding around the school and mentoring throughout the year. I am confident peer leaders will be a very successful club this year. Also, as the school year begins to start up, so do the fall sports teams. Preseason for football, soccer, field hockey, cross country, cheerleading, girls volleyball, and girls tennis have begun. Teams are very excited for the new season. In preparation for the first day of school, all grade levels have received their schedules in the mail. Everyone seems to be excited and ready to take on the 2016-2017 school year, and positive it will be a great one. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. At this time, we'll have our first public discussion. If you would like to approach the microphone regarding anything that's on our agenda this evening, please state your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes for your remarks. Okay, seeing none, I will turn it over to Dr. Malash for his superintendent comments.
Thank you, Mrs. Matlack. So, August 23rd, students return to school 2 weeks from today, September the 6th. 2 weeks from, actually 2 weeks from today, the first day of school will be over. Some of us will be sitting here in a committee meeting on September 6th, but the first day of school will be over. I can't wait. I am absolutely thrilled the students are returning. Summer's a busy time in schools. There's a lot of planning, there's a lot of discussion, there's a lot of physical work that gets done. Mr. Carter, who's sitting out in the audience, he supervises facilities and buildings and grounds. His folks, the men and women behind the scenes, they clean the buildings, get stuff ready, do an incredible amount of work in a very short amount of time. 1.7 million square feet in our buildings. And these folks have done a tremendous job. So while they would like some of it a little bit longer and the kids may stay out a little bit, I'm ready for the kids to be back. As we hit the second week in August, it's time. So as much as I enjoy talking with the adults who work here in the district, the administrators, and working with different people, I need the kids to be here. Schools are wonderful places, but they're meant to have energy. They're meant to have enthusiasm. They're meant to have excitement. And that's what our children bring. One of the highlights for me at each of the board meetings is to hear the student board reps. I'm thrilled with Molly and with Caitlin and with the alternates who will be here. And ladies, thank you for your presentations tonight. I look forward to hearing them throughout the course of the year. The voice that you bring to represent the students on a monthly basis is tremendous. And you've both been around before. You know at the board, here's your voice, and here's the impact that you have. This really is a busy time. The 16-17 academic year is going to go by very quickly as well. But we want to hold on to what we can with fall. So this morning as we woke up and it was 65 degrees or so outside, gives us a little true to what the fall is going to look like. Ladies talked about fall sports. They're in full swing. The practices are going on. The kids are ready. They're excited. Marching band's getting started. They're getting ready to talk about auditions for fall shows and everything else that's going to take place. Schedules have been mailed. Students are ready. There's questions that have come through in guidance. Well, Caitlin alluded to some of the programs that kids have been involved in. Some of the other things that I'd like to highlight that have occurred during the course of the summer at the high school level, the guidance office has run programs for preparation for the Common App, where we've had students and parents involved at both high schools. There's college essay writing that goes through. There's an SAT prep that goes in. There's been AP discussions that have taken place. And then the work also continues down into the middle school and into the elementary schools with some of the things that have gone on. So very exciting times. The turf fields are progressing. We're at a point where we're just about ready to turn over the use of the turf field at High School West to the athletic department and the folks there. And if you over at East today, and I think yesterday, they started laying the synthetic turf to be put through. So again, progressing very quickly. When you look at the difference of what actually it looks like in the facilities, and using West as the example, it's incredible. We met with the mayor and the business administrator for the township earlier, and we're just talking about that, the difference between what that field looked like on Thanksgiving Eve last November, and the snow and the rain and the mud and the boys and the cheerleaders and the band out there with the impact of all that was there, and what it looks like today and what it's going to look like throughout this fall and throughout next year. So we're grateful to the school board and to the township and honestly to the community working together and supporting it. One of the great things that we have as we move in, and I think it's a great example for all of our students and for our faculty, is the work that we are able to do between the school district and the township. It's one community, and people do embrace that. I'm excited for September the 1st. We welcome back our certificated staff. September 2nd, our ed assistants also join in the morning. And we have all the certificated staff together throughout the day on September 2nd. Board members, you'll get information. We've told you a little bit on September 2nd. We have a keynote speaker that's coming in to address the staff I'm very excited about. But honestly, for me, September 6th, I have it circled on the calendar. I am ready. And even though I don't have to open a school and I'm not responsible for individual schedules, I'm not sleeping well. I have that anxiety of what's that first day going to look like. But I'm very excited to see the kids as they return to the school and start to see the incredible things that go on. 182 days. That's our academic year for students. It's not a lot of time. And ladies, for you two and for your peers as you go back to school, seize every opportunity. Enjoy every moment that you have throughout the course of your senior year.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to our action agenda. I will turn it over to Mrs. Seidel with the CNI agenda.
Thank you, Mrs. Matlack. The superintendent recommends and I move the following. Number 1, approval of high school textbooks. Number 2, approval of non-public school technology for 2016-2017 school year. Number 3, approval of out-of-district student placements for 2016-2017 school year. Number 4, approval of corrective action plan consolidated monitoring report. Number 5, attendance at conferences and workshops for the 2016-2017 school year. Number 6, resolution approving a rider to professional services agreement for the 2016-2017 school year. Number 7, approval of services contract with New Jersey Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired 2016 17. Number 8, approval of No Place for Hate Impact at West High School. Number 9, approval of agreements for 2016-2017 school year for professional development services, $17,500 and under. Number 10, approval of non-public school textbooks for the 2016-2017 school year. And we have 2 yellow additions. Number 11, approval of the fiscal impact of the professional development plan. And number 12, approval of special education settlement agreement. Do I have a second? Mrs. Judge? Any discussion? Mr. Roth?
A question, could you tell me what number 11 refers to? The fiscal impact of professional development plan?
Yes. Dr.
Dr. Malash?
Oh, sorry. You didn't want to field it first, right? Dr. Mahan to explain the work that's been done between the schools, and Dr. Mahan and Dr. Campisi have organized to go through. So, Dr. Mahan, if you'll explain.
At the C&I meeting this month, we talked about professional development plans that have to be written for not only the district, but for each school in the district. And in previous years, the board had to approve the actual professional development plans. The state has changed the mandates, and now the board only has to approve the fiscal requirements or regulations or money, making sure that we have it. So in your Friday packet, you received a list of, by school, the financial implications of the professional development plan. So that's what you're approving. Did that answer your question?
And that was included in our budget for this year? Or there's...
Those items are included in the budget, but most of the items on the professional development plan come out of grant funds. Most of it is budgeted through Title II funds and or building-based funds.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Roth, just to clarify, yes, the monies that are district-based funds were approved as part of the budget. This gives the specifics in terms of how those allocations are going to be expended within the district.
Any other questions? Mrs. Judge?
Was this by building in your memo or in this past Friday? It was part of that. Okay. I don't know if I remember seeing dollars.
The 42-page, that was the police thing.
I don't remember seeing dollars, but okay.
Was the
Correction Action Plan, I don't remember any dollars associated with it.
What Dr. Campisi and I put together for you was a list of what the schools actually requested. So some of them, we don't have the actual dollar amounts, but in our budgets, we estimate and we say this is what will need to happen in regards to the professional development. An example that I can give for you is one of the schools is working on mindset, and they ordered the mindset books. The mindset books have been ordered, and they were, I don't know, I'm going to estimate, $2,000 for the books to be delivered to the school. That has already been, we have that money already allocated. So we did not break out, I don't believe, each of the specific dollar amounts, but we did make sure that you were aware of where the money would be spent.
Question, I don't think we saw that schedule. We didn't get that schedule.
I thought it was included in the Friday memo. Okay, we'll pull it up.
Yeah, so we need to table item 11 until next meeting. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, you said move seconded.
No.
But the actual second. Oh, good.
The original.
I moved.
Okay.
Okay. So, Kathy, do you, Mrs. Judge, do you agree to the change?
Okay. So do you both agree to
Yeah.
table it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, Mrs. Sugars.
Mrs. Seidel?
I am going to abstain from item number 2 with respect to CDW listed as the vendor. Yes to the rest.
Mr. Goodwin?
Yes.
Mrs. Judge?
Yes to all.
Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
Mr. Roth?
Yes to all.
Mrs. Scarpellino?
Yes to all.
Mr. Tomlinson?
I have to abstain from item number 3 with regards to Bancroft NeuroHealth. Yes to the remainder.
Mrs. Matlack?
Yes to all. Dr. Dickinson is not here this evening, so I would like to ask somebody on the BNF committee to move the agenda. Mr. Goodwin, thank you very much.
Yes, Dr. Dixon did ask me to move the agenda for him today. The superintendent recommends and I move the following: 1, financial reports; 2, resolutions; 3, recession of award; bid 1617-5, student transportation services; school-related activities; fall high school athletics 2016-2017 school year. And 4, acceptance of donations. Do I have a second? Mrs. Judge, are there any questions? I'll just start off with a question. That item number 3, what is
It's a mouthful. We, at the last board meeting on August 9th, we had awarded a bid for high school athletic transportation for the fall. One of the bidders that was involved in that bid award, we have subsequently found out, is not able to meet the specifications. Their buses have to be registered, licensed, and certified in the state of New Jersey, and they currently are not. They tell us that they are working on it. So Mr. Green and I spoke to them, and we felt that because they currently are not meeting the specifications, it was in our best interest to rescind the bid award at this point. We are scrambling a little bit to cover. We called Hillman's. They were able to cover 25 of the 70 routes, but we have some additional routes that we are currently putting out to bid right as we speak in order to cover the rest of those routes.
That was my concern. What about those other routes? Are we going to be able to get them covered? Are some of them like really soon, meets in September that we got to really scramble for?
The first route that we have to meet is on September 12th. So we are going to quote a couple of those routes that are earlier so we can cover them right now while we are going through this bid process. So we have those quotes out right now. We've already gotten one response. We're waiting for another response. We're hoping to, award those quotes quickly, cover those early routes, and then bid the rest of the routes.
If no other questions, Mrs. Sugars.
Mr. Goodwin?
Yes.
Mrs. Judge?
Yes to all.
Mr. Robbins?
Abstaining with respect to New Jersey American on the bill list. Yes to the remainder.
Mr. Roth?
Yes to all.
Mrs. Seidel?
Yes to all.
Mrs. Scarpellino?
Yes.
Mr. Tomlinson?
Yes to all.
Mrs. Matlack?
Yes to all. Mrs. Judge, will you move the HR agenda, please?
Yes, I will. Thank you very much. The superintendent recommends and I move the following: termination of employment certificated. Number 2, termination of employment non-certificated. Number 3, appointment certificated. Number 4, appointments non-certificated. Number 5, contract renewal certificated. Number 6, contract renewals non-certificated. Number 7, leaves of absence certificated. Number 8, leaves of absence non-certificated. Number 9, assignment salary change certificated. Number 10, assignment salary change non-certificated. Number 11, other compensation certificated. Number 12, other compensation non-certificated. Number 13, other motions. And I do want to make mention that we do have a pink handout, additions to all of the ones that I just read off, or almost all of them. Do I have a second, please? Mrs. Seidel. Any questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Sugars.
Mrs. Judge?
Yes to all.
Mr. Goodwin?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
Mr. Roth?
Yes to all.
Mrs. Seidel?
Yes.
Mrs. Scarpellino?
Yes.
Mr. Tomlinson?
Yes to all.
Mrs. Matlack?
Yes. Mr. Robbins, will you move the P&L agenda, please?
Sure. Superintendent recommends and I move the following. Item 1, approval of Uniform State Memorandum of Agreement 2016-2017. 2, waiver of procedure F3, secondary field trips. Item 3, approval of harassment, intimidation, bullying investigation decisions. And I have a fourth motion, which I will read into the record. Although notwithstanding this motion, I will be abstaining from it. Resolved that the Chair of the Board of Education approves and adopts the written HIB appeal decision in HIB incident number 15-16:1468, affirming the Board's prior determination that the actions constituted HIB, and directs the superintendent to provide a copy of the decision to the parents of the affected pupils with appropriate redaction. Do I have a second? Mr. Goodwin, thank you. Questions? Jane?
The one that you just read, is that an item number or?
It'll be item 4 in the
Item 4,
minutes.
okay, because I'm gonna have to abstain too.
Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, Ms. Sugars?
Mr. Robbins?
Abstaining with respect to item 4, yes to the remainder.
Mr. Roth?
Yes to all.
Mrs. Seidel?
Yes.
Mrs. Scarpellino?
Abstain to item 4, yes to the rest.
Mr. Tomlinson?
Yes to all.
Mr. Goodwin?
Yes.
Mrs. Judge?
Yes to all.
Mrs. Matlack?
Yes to all. Next up, we have strategic planning. We have no action item agenda items under strategic planning. So we'll move into our second public comment. At this time, you may come to the microphone and address the board on any topic. When you come to the microphone, please state your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes for your remarks. Okay, seeing none. At this time, I will call for a motion to go back into executive session for the purpose of discussing attorney-client privilege. We will not be coming back into public nor taking any action on the item discussed. Do I have a motion to go into executive session? Mr. Robbins, may I have a second, please? Mr. Goodwin. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.